Calaroga Shark Media.
Another busy one. I am Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. Just before I was about to record, the People's Choice Awards put out their nominees. I'll get to that towards the end of the first half here. Bill Burr announced the annual Patrice O'Neill benefit concert. It's the 11th annual, a night of stand-up comedy to honor the memory of Patrice O'Neill. This year's performers, Bill Burr, Michael Che, Tim Dillon, who's great, Marcelo Hernandez, Bonnie McFarlane, Sean Patton, Robert Powell III, Cypher Sounds, and Rich Voss. They're really going out of their way to let you know the event will be a phone-free experience. Use of cell phones, smartwatches, smart accessories, cameras, or recording devices will not be permitted inside the theater. The website says on November 29th, 2011, one of the greatest stand-up comics of all time passed away. If you never saw him live, the genius of Patrice O'Neill is not something that can be described. He was beyond a comic's comic, and this next sentence makes me laugh. They write, "For anyone who ever met him," I'll raise my hand, "saw him perform or was on the receiving end of his signature trash talking," I'll raise my hand, "or simply passed him on the street, it was an experience you would never forget." I agree. As I've said on the podcast before, I like his comedy. I did not enjoy the time I spent with the man. He just would never turn it off. You could walk in and be hello, and he would come right at you. It was like, dude, I'm just trying to work. Kevin Hart's got a new film out today on Netflix. It is called Lift. The story centers on the realistically named Cyrus Whitaker, played by Kevin Hart. Cyrus Whitaker is the leader of an international heist team who gets enlisted to steal $500 million in gold from a midair passenger plane before the fortune ends up in the wrong hands. That sounds like fun. That could be a good thing, right? Kevin Hart told Entertainment Tonight, for this movie, it's a stunt-filled role, and he thinks he was in the best shape of his life. "I was probably at 4% body fat through the course of this movie." I wonder if he texted that to Harrison Ford. It's like, yo, Har, I'm at 4% body fat. And, Harrison Ford's on that group chat I told you about yesterday with Tom Cruise and The Rock. Yeah, they're all looking at this. And Kevin probably texted them and said, "I was probably at 4% body fat." Come on, Kevin. I'm not buying that story at all. The body fat? Sure. You were in shape. The group text? No way. The director is the same person who did The Fate of the Furious, so that's Fast 8. That's the one where The Rock drags a submarine. That makes me less hopeful. Plus, Netflix is not known for their quality. Quantity, yes. Quality, not so sure when it comes to the movies. We'll see. Kevin Hart, watch it. What else are you doing? There's football this weekend, though. All right, and in a surprise appearance, the 14th Annual Governors Awards whipped out John Mulaney. No one seemed to know this was coming, and suddenly John Mulaney was hosting this thing. All the various entertainment websites gave Mulaney good reviews and said maybe it was an audition for hosting the Oscars. You might want to ask Joe Coy if that's a good idea. There's a clip. It's a little long and a little slow, so I'll go a little longer than I usually do with the clips. But I think if you just hear John shucking and jiving, I think it backs up how tough these rooms are. Just like I said with Joe Coy, the material John's doing here is better than what he's getting back. Let's listen.
Ladies and gentlemen, find your tables. We have to be out of here by 10 p.m. There is a corporate event for some personal injury attorneys coming in. They will be using the same decorations. Please, find your seats, everybody. Let's all sit down. If you don't sit down, I'm going to bring Terrence Howard up here, and he'll explain his new geometry, and it's not fun. Everyone sit down. Let's do this. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and a favor to be here. This is a strategic obligation. It is a pleasure to stand here on this temporary stage. For those of you that don't recognize me from the Tuesday night AA meeting in the Palisades, my name is John Mulaney. If you don't know, thank you. That's very nice. If you don't know who I am, that's totally fine. I'm like Louis Farrakhan. I mean a lot to a very small group of people. It's such an honor for me to be hosting this. Growing up as a boy, I would always watch the non-televised Governors Awards, even though they only started 14 years ago. My family, we'd gather in front of the turned-off TV. It was the only time I ever saw my dad smile. And I'd think someday, that's going to be me.
John's hair has grown out a little bit, a little longer. He looks pretty good. Kelly Carlin has reacted to the George Carlin AI. The media's just running with AI George Carlin releases special, a couple things. Let's not just accept that AI George Carlin is a thing that puts out specials. Also, let's not use the word special for everything, including a thing that is a computer-generated voice. Speaking of which, I meant to bring this up yesterday. The computer-generated voices are really good. I have my own voice trained on this podcast, and occasionally, if I misspeak, like let's say instead of, I don't know, Kevin Hart, I said Billy Hart, I have a program where I can open up a text document and replace where it says Billy Hart and type in Kevin Hart, and it'll generate in more or less my voice, Kevin Hart. I use it probably 3-4 times a week on a word here and there, and you probably don't notice. The more words I use it for, it starts to fall apart, and my voice will get flatter as it goes along. But for 1 word, 2 words, it's pretty good, and that's the consumer version. So I can only imagine what the pros have. I digress. Kelly Carlin posted on Twitter, because we're calling it Twitter, Elon. Do whatever you want. Twitter. She tweeted, because that's what we do on Twitter. My dad spent a lifetime perfecting his craft. From his very human life, brain, and imagination, no machine will ever replace his genius. These AI-generated products are clever attempts at trying to recreate a mind that will never exist again. Let's let the artist's work speak for itself. That we can't let what has fallen into it stay there. Here's an idea. How about we give some actual living human comedians a listen to? But if you want to listen to the genuine George Carlin, he has 14 specials that you can find anywhere. She followed that up on Thursday with another tweet. Again, thank you all, except for the few who want to tell me that I'm a greedy B-word, for your understanding and support with this AI BS. I need to regulate my nervous system a bit after all of this, so I'll be back tomorrow to say hi and get back to posting other stuff. Kelly's a really solid individual. She's not doing a money grab here. I've spent a lot of time with her. She just wants to keep George's legacy out there. If you dive in the feed, sometime in the summer of 2022, I did a lengthy interview with Kelly if you want to check that out. Joe Coy is still making news, and I'm starting hashtag Johnny Mac was right. Joy Behar joining Team Johnny Mac. Joy said, when Joe Coy made a joke about Taylor Swift, that was a mistake because no one laughed and Taylor took a sip. I noticed in the moment, which indicated she was not happy with that. Meanwhile, she needs to get over it. Also, it's like, come on, it's just a joke about how many times we see you on award shows. That's not what the joke was about. The joke was about how many times we see her on football games. It wasn't that funny, but you need to play along with the comedian. Joy Behar feels only a select few are capable of handling award shows. She says Ricky Gervais is the only one. Maybe Steve Martin could do it because he's part of the community. But if you're going to have a stand-up comedian, they have to be outside the big people, the adults. We have to be the ones who will take no prisoners and say what everyone else is thinking. They don't care if you don't laugh. Ricky Gervais does not give a flying you-know-what if they don't laugh and they don't approve. At one point, I think he even blamed his writers. Johnny Carson never did that. When his jokes bombed, he never said, thanks, writers. He took full responsibility when they got a laugh. And he took it when they bombed. I'll chime in. Johnny was also good at getting a laugh at bombing. He would just mug for the camera. He was great at that. All right, the People's Choice Awards, the nominees for the comedy act. And I'm wondering, did the People's Choice Awards put any effort into this at all? Or did they just look at who was nominated for a Grammy? The nominees for the comedy act, People's Choice Awards, are John Mulaney, Baby J, Amy Schumer, Emergency Contact, Marlon Wayans, God Loves Me. Does this list sound familiar? Wanda Sykes, I'm an Entertainer, Trevor Noah, Off the Record, Kevin Hart, Reality Check, Chris Rock, Selective Outrage, Sarah Silverman, Someone You Love. Real quick, I pulled up the Grammy nominations. It is Rock, Silverman, Trevor, Wanda, Chappelle. Of course, the answer should be Gary Goldman. But out of this crew, well, it's civilians who are going to vote. They're going to pick Chris Rock. There's a category called the Host of the Year. It's Gordon Ramsay, Jimmy Fallon, but not for The Tonight Show. It's for That's My Jam, Nick Cannon, Steve Harvey for Celebrity Family Feud, and Terry Crews. There's also the Nighttime Talk Show of the Year. The nominees are Heart to Heart. Is that a nighttime talk show? It's not. It's a show on Peacock, but that's not a late night talk show. That's something else, but whatever. Jimmy Kimmel Live, John Oliver, Seth, Daily Show. That'd be weird, right? It doesn't have a host. Stephen Colbert, Fallon, and Watch What Happens with Andy Cohen. It's the civilians who are voting. They're going to pick Andy Cohen. Aaron Rodgers, you may recall he had some thoughts about Jimmy Kimmel. Well, he will not be returning to the Pat McAfee show for the remainder of the NFL season. And I'm reading this quote from Pat. Pat, did you throw Aaron Rodgers under the bus? I'll get into a fight with. I'm taking on the Swifties, Pat McAfee, and Kevin Hart. I'll take you all on at once. And Cat Williams. Cat Williams, you're not funny. I'll take on all 4 of them at once. I want some downloads. Pat McAfee said, I'm pumped. Actually, Cat Williams is hilarious. I just want to get into a celebrity beef. Take some shots at me, Cat. You're pretty funny. Pat McAfee said, I'm pumped that he, Aaron Rodgers, is no longer going to be every single Wednesday of my life. There's going to be a lot of people that are happy with that, myself included. To be honest, the way it ended, it got real loud. I'm happy that he's not going to be in my mentions going forward, which is great news. I'm not sure Pat understands how much attention he got on the way up from having Aaron Rodgers on his show. Am I defending Aaron's comments about Jimmy Kimmel? No, but I think Pat was pretty quick to throw somebody who helped him out a lot under the bus there. We'll see.
Fake Johnny Mac here with an update. Aaron wound up on Pat's show on Thursday after all, so who knows? Now back to real Johnny Mac.
Gayle King asked Charles Barkley about Rodgers Gate. Charles said, I would have punched him in the face. That's not funny. Johnny Mac and Daily Company News, we do not advocate violence. I think when you're in the limelight, people get to say things about you. That goes with the territory. But when you start comparing people, saying you're hanging out with, the kind of stuff Aaron suggested, that's dangerous. Moving on, Kelsey Grammer wants Shelley Long to return as Diane on the Frasier reboot. You know, that is not the worst idea I've ever heard. The worst idea I've ever heard is an Adam Sandler movie with an alien in it, but this is not that. Kelsey said, the key to Frasier for me was that he loved her with his whole heart. He loved with all his being, and that actually defined who he is. He's been that way ever since. He just goes in wholeheartedly with everything. That's what makes him funny. Shelley made 2 appearances on the original Frasier as part of Dream Sequences and an appearance in The Flesh in a season 3 episode, the show where Diane comes back. You know what? Put her on the show. Let those two get back together. Why not? That's your comedy news for today. If you enjoy the show, go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews. But I got a new thing for you. 2 things. The donuts chain, they've been screwing up the orders left and right. I'm getting a little frustrated. Plus, I'm on a kick. Can you even hear this? Smoothies. No, I don't like to give out free plugs. What can I refer to these guys as? It's a smoothie chain that I got to come up with a bit for this. Anyway, the smoothie place. No, not the big one. This is a different one. They sell wraps. Hit me up in the Facebook group. Let me know what I should call this one, but I'd have to tell you what it is. You know what? I'll post a picture of me with it, and then you can comment on that, okay? So you can go to buymeacoffee.com/dailycomedynews, and I'll take your money. I'll buy one of these. Anyway, see you tomorrow.